Good evening, everyone. Starting a bit early today because I have people have been on call apparently for some time. Good evening once again, and welcome to Crypto Pulse Weekly. Yeah, it's another Friday, and we're having another go at the markets. Bloody Friday, you may say, but yeah, it's pretty much expected. The inflation results are out in the US and highest in 40 years. That's significant. And there are implications to that. And that's what's been reflected on the market. So without taking much of your time, I'm going to dive into the analysis of what's happened, what's happening, and what's going to show up in the months and the weeks to come. So let's get started. As you all heard today, the rate hike began to take effect, and inflation is still not abated. Two critical things that this means. One, it means the Federal Reserve Bank is going to continue to do what you call quantitative tightening, the opposite of quantitative easing. So quantitative easing is a fancy word for money printing. Quantitative tightening is a fancy word for money mop-up. So usually what happens is when there's a problem, the governments go to the central banks to borrow money. And what the central banks literally do is to print money. I think I've explained that many times before. They print money with the hope that that money is going to be used for productivity. And as a result of that, some value will be derived in the economy. They also try to balance that with things like bond sales and selling of government debts. So what's been happening basically since 2008 is one form of quantitative easing or the other. But because there was too much quantitative easing, let me use that word, during COVID, it has now backfired, like I've said in many of the meetings before now. So that effect is what we're feeling now. So what's happening now is we're just coming out of the effect of the excessive money printing that happened during COVID. And then you have this war in Europe going on. So now that has sort of made it worse because war in Europe has supply chain implication. The second wave, whatever wave of COVID that they're battling with in China also has a supply chain implication. All of that is now telling on the market. And because the inflation is the highest the US has seen in 40 years, it means that the Federal Reserve Bank needs to react to it. They don't have much of a choice, really, because, I mean, inflation, if it goes into hyperinflation, then there'll be chaos because everything will be too expensive. Everything is already expensive, but then money will rapidly lose value, essentially. That's what happens in an hyper-inflated environment. Example is Venezuela more recently, and Zimbabwe in the immediate past. There was a very funny picture that used to circle around, and people carrying Zimbabwean dollars in a wheelbarrow with the intention of buying a loaf of bread. So money can rapidly lose value when there's hyperinflation. So what the Fed is trying to do is to essentially curtail that. They're not the only ones that have done that. Bank of England has raised interest rates. European Central Bank is talking about it. They don't want to raise theirs because the European economy is already on a fragile state because of the war in Ukraine. As a result, everybody in the majors is going to have to raise interest. What happens when interest rate goes up? When interest rate goes up, of course, cost of borrowing goes up, cost of everything is cost of debt, everything goes up. But much more than that, the equities markets dry up. I explained last week, and I'll just explain briefly again. The reason the equities and the money markets dry up is because the available money that has been pumped into the system by the government is usually finding its way into the money market and the equities markets. When the government starts to curtail that and start to mop that up, the first place to take the hit is the money markets, and that's what's happening right now. And because in the eyes of Wall Street and most institutional investors, Bitcoin is regarded like it's almost like a tech stock. So if you follow the trajectory of tech stock and Bitcoin, you'll see that they're very similar. So that's what's happening to the price. And that's why 29K is lost. There's been a lot of buying happening around 30K, both individuals and institutions. But the selling pressure is high because usually most of the people that are participating in the equities market also have positions in Bitcoin. Because, I mean, I don't know if you know that, but Bitcoin is now globally traded like Forex. So that will definitely affect the price, coupled with the fact that a number of, how do I put it? A number of Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, crypto organizations are also cashing out. They're selling out because everybody's sort of realizing that, bear market has actually started. Whether we like it or not, it looks like, yeah, we are back in 2018 all over again. So because of that, 29K is gone. Like I said, 22, 26K is in play. Some people have said 19.5, some people have said 20K. Usually it's hard for Bitcoin to go back to previous all-time high. But I mean, we've seen 9 weeks continuously now of price decline for Bitcoin. So anything can happen at this point. Like I said at the beginning of, I think that was May or mid-May, that we are at the beginning of a capitulation event. And that capitulation event is not over yet because we've not seen, total capitulation in the market. The price has been holding steady. We dipped 27 or 25K way back. We've come back up. Somebody said, or some people said there was a glitch on Binance or Bitfinex this morning when the price went to 22K. I don't think it was a glitch. I think it was somebody testing the market. And I can give you a very recent example. When the market dropped from 69K to was it 50K? Or 50, yeah, when it dropped from 69K to like 60K. I remember then thinking it was a glitch because the candle just went, and it was only on one exchange that the price went to that level, and I was thinking, oh, that's too far off. But eventually we found out that liquidity eventually found its way to that level. So watch out for 22K. In terms of sentiment, of course, we're now fully bearish. I think we're going to sit between 20 and 30 for the rest of the summer. And that's because this quantitative tightening I'm talking about is going to be mopping up capital from the markets. And the resultant effect is that the stock market indices will be crashing. As long as Bitcoin is moving with stock market the way it has been moving, the price is not going to go up. The only thing that can change is if we hit, let's say, 20K, which is like electricity cost for Bitcoin. If we hit 20K and the price refuses to go down, we might decouple from S&P. At that point that we decouple from S&P, then there is hope that there will be rapid price gain. But up until that point, I don't see any way the price is going to recover quickly. It was expected that June will be the bloodiest, but I think we've not seen the end of it yet. And what happened today is a testament to the fact that we've not seen the end of it yet. There's a lot of buying interest, no doubt about it. But yeah, if you want to sell, you can sell. If you're a swing trader, you can sell Bitcoin now and buy back at 22 or 23K. I have no guarantee that it won't go lower than 22K, but that's the next reasonable level. And a number of reasons why I said 22K. One, 22K is above. It was the first price that it went to when we first crossed all-time high. 22K or 22K was when we first touched, when we broke all-time high from 19K. Secondly, there's a CME gap around 24,500. I will talk about that during the technical analysis. CME gaps are just price gaps on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And usually those gaps tend to get filled. It's almost like magnets. So the closer the price is to a CME gap, the higher the likelihood that it's going to be filled. Since we touched 24K at the last leg down, I think we're going to hit 20. We're definitely going to touch 24K again, if only to take out that CME gap before any leg up. That is one CME gap that we've not tried since we broke all-time high. We've not gone back to that CME gap because what happened was we were at 23K, then we gapped up to like 26K the following week. Then just about the time when the price wanted to come down was when Elon Musk came up with that announcement about, I think it was Tesla, whichever of his company that was buying Bitcoin at the time. So the price just went from there into the 30s. And the rest they say is history. So until we get to 22K, I don't see stabilization in the offering. In terms of other news, there is this investigation going on. I don't know if you guys are aware. South Korean prosecutors and authorities are looking into Terraform Labs. Terraform Labs are the guys behind Terra, UST, and Luna. And the allegation is that it was a technical rug pull. Technical rug pull meaning, there was a cascade of events that they knew was inevitable, and instead of them to take corrective action, they decided to cash out. So I understand they investigated some of the employees, and they said the Dukwon guy cashed out $80 million some weeks before that event happened. Whichever way, definitely, except he disappears or dies so mysteriously, he's probably going to jail, because there's a lot of capital that went down with the UST. I mean, both UST and Terra. I mean, billions of people's. I mean, there was a guy that was crying on TikTok. He had $2 million in UST staked, and he came back and it was literally worthless. Like, it wasn't up to $10. I mean, it's $2 million. The guy was. I mean, I felt his pain, because I also had Terra stash, but I mean, I didn't have as much as 2 million. But that's he went on holiday for him. I mean, to come back and meet that was like Nigeria people would say, it was like enemy action from village people. But anyways, I think a lot of people are going to go to jail, especially because South Korea is not joking. Now they've come up with this legislation that says, you can't just create stable coins. It has to be backed. It has to be just like Japanese legislation. It has to be backed by the fiat of that country. Then there's another legislation that's going to the US Congress as well, that essentially will make Bitcoin and Ethereum commodities and every other altcoins securities. So in simple terms, commodities are like gold, silver, and crude oil. Securities are like shares. So every token or coin outside probably Ethereum and Bitcoin are going to, like in the US, they're likely going to end up being classified like tech shares. I'm not going to talk about that because it has pros and cons, but let's move on. I saw this one that was interesting. VeChain. VeChain signs a multi-year deal with UFC. VeChain is one of those interesting projects that has managed to be around since 2016, and they are actually developing real-life projects. So they have a supply chain solution that can help you to use blockchain to track goods. So you can track, like when you say from farm to, what do they call that thing in the UK? From farm to something, farm to market, no, farm to store or farm to shelf, something like that. You can actually track a particular plant from the farmer and the farm where it came from to the shelf that is being sold on in the supermarket or in the departmental store. So they do have a good solution, and it didn't do up to 10x. I think it did I think it did close to 10x, at least from when I bought it back in 2020 to April of 2021. I think it did fairly well. But they've gone into partnership with UFC. I guess they'll probably be doing new projects or new product like NFTs and all that. But it's one of those strong projects to watch out for. When the prices drop lower, we're not as I said, we're not at the lowest for altcoins yet, because Bitcoin itself has not capitulated. So we're yet to see the lowest point for altcoins. In another news, South Korea exchanges start to delist Litecoin. This happened during the week because the Litecoin network was upgraded with a privacy functionality. With that privacy functionality, you can actually transact on the blockchain without, people knowing who you are. So you eventually, essentially behaves like Monero. The reason they were getting delisted in South Korean exchanges was there was a law against privacy coin in South Korea that more or less ties into money laundering and all that. So because the regulators weren't going to have it, even though they've not said they're going to, excuse me. Sorry, I was, when you have this sneeze and you feel like you're going to cough, you're going to sneeze and you hold it and it doesn't come. Sorry, that's what just happened. So yeah, the South Korean exchanges are trying to be proactive by not annoying the authorities. So they are trying to delete Litecoin. I think it's probably just going to make Litecoin pump in the short term. But personally, I think Litecoin is an underperforming clone of Bitcoin. Maybe this upgrade will make it more attractive to people, but it has really underperformed, relatively speaking. It's also a usual indicator of Bitcoin price behavior. But I mean, that behavior, that discussion is not relevant now because we're not in the bull run. But yeah, Litecoin adopts, inherits, or what you call, gains a privacy functionality. A survey that was carried out in the US, I think in the past month, shows that 75% of US retailers plan to accept crypto payments as a form of payment within the next 24 months. Why do I bring up this kind of news? One word: adoption. Understanding the pathway to adoption can help you to understand where you are in the market or where you are in the market cycle. If you don't understand the path of adoption, you might be chasing the price like a cat would chase a laser light, or like a dog would chase a tennis ball, and just be running around the place. But when you understand the narrative or the picture that adoption is playing, then you know how to strategically position yourself as a person and determine how you are going to interact with the market on the long term. Very few people win the market in the short term. That's just the truth. Even, day traders are like 40 to 50% accurate for the most part. So winning on the short term is quite an uphill task. But on the long term, if you know where you are in terms of the market cycle, it helps you to position yourself accordingly. So this is what this is about. 75% of retailers are planning to accept. On the back of that, you have people like MasterCard now saying, you can buy NFT with MasterCard now without necessarily first buying Ethereum or buying Solana. I've not really talked about NFT in recent time, but there is a lot of stuff going on with NFT. The only reason I've not talked about it is it's pretty much like the wild west. It's like Bitcoin in the early days. A lot of scams, so many unstable platform. Some people's NFT got stolen after they bought it. All sorts of crazy stories are happening in NFTs. So I've just decided that, there's no point trying to, its time has not come yet fully. It's already in the market, people are already talking about it, but I don't think the time for NFTs have fully come, because the ramifications of the application of NFTs is so powerful that by the time even the government grasps what you can do with the NFT technology, everywhere will literally have to use NFT. For instance, NFT protocols can help you have unique identifiers that makes it difficult for counterfeiting of not only certificates, identities. You can use it in voting, things that require exclusive, unique signatures. You can apply NFT to it completely. And because it's blockchain, it will be, available for everybody to see. So the applications they're still going to show themselves in the future. Let me use that word. But like many other tokens that have come in times past, not all NFTs are going to succeed. I know NFTs that are bought that become zero already. So it's not a guarantee that you buy an NFT and somebody's going to be interested in selling or interested in buying it from you. If you don't have a buyer, then you're just you're holding the bags as it were. So NFTs, tread with caution. But I think we're going to see a boom by the time we get to the next cycle. Lastly, I had the story that happened. I don't know if you guys heard about it. Optimism is like a layer 2 solution for Ethereum. And to be honest, the platform had been running since must have been like mid last year, because I remember using it and them saying that if you interacted with the platform, you could get some tokens and all that. So they finally launched their token, and guess what happened? They launched the token and 20 million tokens disappeared. I don't know whether to believe that story, or I don't know, but the story is that they mistakenly sent 20 million tokens to a wrong multi-sig wallet. It does not make sense to my brain how developers who are working on a project this big will send 20 million tokens to somebody else's wallet. I want to believe that it was a hack or something, but I'm going to leave it at that. But anyway, 20 million token went down the drain. Well, it didn't go down the drain, in fairness. It went to somebody else's wallets. Then the guy sat on it. Then the guy sends a message to Ethereum founder Vitalik by sending 1 million of those 20 million to Vitalik's Ethereum wallet. So he sends it to him, and I don't know, sends a message with it and all that. Eventually, the guy agrees to return. I think he's returned 17 million now. With the 1 million with the Vitalik, that's 18 million. Maybe he decided to keep 2 million for himself. Anyways, it's a bad dent because they've been working. I don't know how that happened. They've been working on the project for over a year now. And to now, issue your token and then send it to the wrong multi-sig wallet. It made absolutely no sense. But that's the story of Optimism. Optimism is selling like 80 cents now. I think it dropped drastically because of that. So if you're interested in Optimism, yeah, maybe not a good time to buy, generally speaking. Maybe later. Maybe sometimes midsummer. I think by the time summer is over, we should have decoupled from S&P 500. So let's get into crypto volatile signs where we talk about what's going on. The market cap, on vital signs, usually I talk about the market cap, but the market cap is no longer something to write home about. It's like 500 billion now for Bitcoin. We're sitting in extreme fair. We were at 10 last week. We're 13 now. I think we're going to go back below 10 in the coming week because the price is going to dip further. Until we get to a plateau where the price does not dip any further. My money is on 20 to 22K, but we'll see. We had a similar event or similar scenario when Bitcoin price was around 11,000. That was after it dropped from 16,000 during the summer of 2020. When it dropped, was that 2020? Yes, that was August, September. When it dropped, sometimes towards the end of September, we just noticed that the price was no longer sitting below 9,000. Anytime the price went below 9,000, it got bought up. So at that point in time, I remember that on one of these calls, putting out a message to say that Bitcoin may not go below 10K again from the way it's behaving. And interestingly, 2 weeks later, the price just went parabolic. Like from there, it went to 12K. From 12K, went to 14, went to 16, then sat around 17 all through December. Then towards the end of December, just moved into the 20s, and that was it. So I think we'll see something like that. Except I don't see Bitcoin selling below 20K for a long time. If it happens, I don't see it happening for a long time. And there are so many factors why I say so. So many institutions now have Bitcoin on their balance sheets. So many ETFs now have Bitcoin on their product list. Same thing with what's it called? these guys, Grayscale, not even Grayscale. Same thing with, major hedge funds. So you have people like ARK Invest. I see, I listen to I listen to Bloomberg, and I see them trying to throw jabs at investors and corporates that are investing in Bitcoin, invested in crypto. So they call up ARK Invest for what's this woman's name? I can't remember her name now. They're always, poking at her to say, our bet is somewhat risky and all that. And she comes out and says, you know what, I'm not betting for the next year, I'm betting for the future. And that innovation solves the problem of the future. And as long as you invest in innovation, you can't go wrong, which is right on the long term. But, media houses need news bites to sell. So it's what is interesting now that is news fodder for media houses. So they're not interested in long-term performance. And I think that's to a good extent what has driven corporate behavior. I don't want to, I'm not an expert in corporate governance, but I remember taking a course in business school when, they were talking about, long-term strategic management versus short-term performance to impress shareholders. There is no right answer because shareholders want your return on their investment. But when you think about that behavior versus building for the long term, usually if your stance is building for the long term, you're going to accrue value bigger and better than if you're just trying to make the figures for the quarter, you're trying to make the figures for the shareholders at the AGM at the end of the year. So I think that because many organizations are, sorry for the diversion, because many organizations are heavily invested, I think we'll get 20K very quickly bought up. And it won't take long. Oh, by the way, I did mention this in 2021 that the Emiratis and the Middle East are standing on the sidelines, observing how the United States is going to treat Bitcoin before they start to move their monies into it. If you know the Middle Easterners, you know that their money bags have an issue, and we've not yet seen the movement of their money. So I think one of the things that happened, good things that happened in the last 6 months or 9 months, is I've seen people like Binance move into the Middle East, get licenses in 2 or 3 countries in the Middle East. I think we're going to see some moves, especially with the bill in Congress now in the US for crypto. If that bill passes, then you're likely to start to see movements into Bitcoin in terms of positioning by the Emiratis. But if the Emiratis start to position in Bitcoin, then we're going to completely decouple from S&P 500. I'm going to come to S&P 500 in a bit. But generally speaking, we are in extreme fear. Extreme fear has always been a good time to buy Bitcoin, historically, because what it means is that 6 months to 12 months after, you are guaranteed to be in profits. But make that what you may of that information. Secondly, I talk about where we are in market cycle using the psychology of the market cheat sheets, Wall Street cheat sheets. I think we are close to capitulation. Like I said, we're not at capitulation yet, because when we get to capitulation, you will notice there will be massive sell-off. There has been sell-off, but it's not as bloody. It's been slow burn or slow bleed, as it were. It's not really massive and cascading. So I think the capitulation is close by. If it doesn't happen this month, it'll probably happen early next month. But I think most likely we're gonna see it this month. And the reason I say that is on the back of what we have now, the Fed will now have to cut rates or hike rates rather every 6 weeks till inflation abates. So 6 weeks from now, which is July, there'll be a rate cut. But incidentally, at that same point is when we're going to get the GDP results for Q2. I'm 100% sure that GDP results for Q2 is a recession, almost invariably. So the idea of having a recession is that the Feds need to trigger a technical recession so that the market does not overheat. It's an economic stuff, and I don't really know how to explain it other than to say that money has been printed in excess that money can cause inflation and make everything too expensive. For it not be too expensive, the Fed needs to start withdrawing the money, the excess money they printed. So in crypto speak, they've issued excess token and diluted the overall circulating supply. Now they are doing burning, what we call burning in crypto. That's what Fed is doing now. They are doing burning of fiat currencies. Anyways, moving on to technical analysis, but I think that was a good analogy from a crypto speak point of view. So speaking of where we are technically, this is Bitcoin 4-hour charts. I'd drawn a line on 42K because I mean 29K because I felt we had a significant level there. That level has been broken now, as it were. I think we're going to have a bearish. I'm not sure this chart is going to work well. Okay, it works well. I'm sure we're going to have a bearish test, meaning we're going to attempt to climb back into 29, which is what it's trying to do now, to climb back into 29. In the next 2 hours, if this does not hold, it's going to be a free fall to, where is that next level? Hold on a second. It's going to be a free fall to 28, 27. Definitely 28, of course, because we're 29 now. Yeah, so 29 is not holding well from what we're seeing. So we're definitely going lower this weekend. Probably today, actually. Probably get to 20. Yeah, there's a good chance. Hold on a second. I had this flip somewhere else, but if I use this here, oh yeah, 27. There's a good chance we get to 27. 28 is sure, definitely, but there's a good chance we get to 27. In terms of dominance, like I said, Bitcoin dominance determines how altcoins behave. Some altcoins have been able to pump in the last 2 days because Bitcoin dominance came down for 2 days. It's going back up towards 48 now. I think we're probably going to show up somewhere around 50 by the middle of the year. What that means, of course, 50 means half of the circulating supply of money is sitting in Bitcoin. It means altcoins will get wrecked. That's what it means literally. So, like I said 2 weeks ago, might be a good time to rotate into Bitcoin just to be on the safe side, and then rotate back when Bitcoin dominance starts to fall. But this is the weekly chart. We're about to break out of the 40s, 47 range. Once we break out of this range, then the next is 50 to 55. Before we see any serious resistance, we're talking about 58% dominance. At 58% dominance, I mean, altcoins will be nearly dead. Altcoins are dead, but they will now, like Luna, they will now go, it does, the way Luna did 90%, then it did another 90% of the remaining 10% before doing another 90%. So I think altcoins are going to get badly spanked in the next few months. I don't think Ethereum is going to be spared. Ethereum has already touched 1.6. I think Ethereum is going to 1.5200 in the near term. And because there is this merge, there's an upgrade on the network coming up. I think it's August now. I keep changing the date, but I think it's August. When this happens, it's a very precarious time for Ethereum network, because whenever there's an upgrade, usually there's always all sorts of issues around. Sometimes some people want to fork the network, meaning split up the network. There will be disagreement on consensus and all that. So usually there's a lot of problems around Ethereum upgrade. So I'm not too excited about this upgrade. I mean, looking at this, it's not looking good either. So definitely, Ethereum is going to take some beating. If Bitcoin dominance goes up further, you can expect Ethereum and altcoins are going to take severe beating. Like I said, we're still very correlated with the S&P 500. And the reason we're correlated with S&P 500 is because the market interprets Bitcoin as a tech stock. So anything that happens to tech in terms of tech stock, anything that happens is regarded as the same thing with Bitcoin. So you can see now, We literally gapped down on the opening today. I think this is today. No, this is this is the candle that opened for today from yesterday. When we opened today, we gapped down by 4 to almost 100 points low. That was when the market, then the market went in further down. So as long as this guy is going down, this coin has no chance, like no chance. And this correlation has been in place since like mid last year now. So you can see even on the daily chart, everything is pointing downwards. I don't see how this is going to come up anytime soon, because immediately the rate high start to take effect, you start to see all the share indices going down. I mean, you've seen all sort of acrobatics being played by shares this year already. Shares that have not gone down in 40 years are seeing 30% drops in a day. So this, to a good extent, is like Bitcoin magnets. Anywhere it goes, it drives Bitcoin with it. This other guy, as I always say, is I don't want to use the word evil twin, but it's the direct opposite. This is the dollar index. As the dollar index goes strong or stronger, Bitcoin weakens because the share price weakens. I've explained this before, but it's simple logic. It's like inverse. Yeah, it is inversely proportional. When the US dollar goes up, what it means is that the US dollar is so strong as a store of value or perceived store of value. So what then happens is institutions move money into the bond market for fixed income. When the US dollar is weakening, the stock market is going up, because then smart money will want to move money from the bonds market into the money market and equities. So that's the explanation for the behavior. And I've also been looking at the longs and actually, was it longs I was looking at shorts? Oh, I thought I had Bitcoin shorts. So I've been looking at the Bitcoin longs as well. I saw that there's been a drop in the, not drop, but a slowdown in the accumulation of longs on Bitfinex. So for those who don't know, Bitfinex is one of the legacy or the OG, how do we call them now? The OG exchanges back in the days. These guys were the ones that were here when nobody was here. So many of the whales, that's unknown whales in crypto and in Bitcoin, are in Bitfinex. So it's usually very instructive to observe what they're doing. So you can see that even the shorts are not going up. So that's why you can see the price is not dropping as drastically as one would have expected. So when you see shorts going up like this, you can expect that the price will go up sharply. So if you take just a very good example, if you take 11th of May, which is the day you had that spike in the amount of shorts, if you come to the daily chart of Bitcoin and you check 11th of May, this is 11th of May, you can see the price was dropping like 3, 4, 5 days up until that time. So usually when there is an increase in short activity, which is beginning to look like it's picking up now, you can expect that the price will start to drop. But at the same time, the longs are still good as well. The longs are still strong. So I don't think that we're going to see the dip for too long, and I don't think the price is going to stay down forever. However, if you have altcoins, like I said, not a financial advice, it might be better to rotate into Bitcoin or stable coins. I talked about stable coins last week. I said I was going to talk about Solana this week. So let's talk about Solana, which is our crypto drip article or subject for today. So what's Solana? Let's just look at what CoinMarketCap says about Solana. In short, Solana is an ecosystem like Ethereum. The only difference is that, unlike Ethereum, Solana uses proof of history. Similar to proof of work. Similar to proof of stake. But introducing the proof of history is supposed to help it be more scalable than Ethereum. However, again, I say however, all these ecosystem coins that have come out to say they want to kill Ethereum, they want to destroy Ethereum, they've not been able to succeed because Ethereum up until now uses proof of stake and proof of work. Proof of work means computers will connect their nodes, they connect their application to the network, and the nodes verify transactions independently, just like Bitcoin works. That disincentivizes centralization. I know it's a cluster of big words, but basically what I'm trying to say is it discourages centralization, which is one of the banes of the current financial system. The current financial system means if you don't behave the way we want you to behave, we can kick you out and nobody will be able to buy or sell with you. Just like Russia is finding out that they can be kicked out even with their own money. So decentralization is what makes Bitcoin and even Ethereum, I think, very appealing up until now. However, Solana, for instance, has most of its validators belonging to the same company. So usually the way a blockchain works is when you propagate the blockchain, you need at least two computers as nodes, as they are called. Those two computers need to make, quote unquote, the network on which the application is propagated. The more the node, the more you secure your network, is because it means that your network is less susceptible to attacks. However, all Solana nodes currently belong to the same company. So not only are they subject to attacks, like we've seen, Solana has been attacked twice in the last 1 year by what you call DDoS attack. DDoS attack is just like a noise-making attack that jams the traffic going to your servers. They've been attacked twice, at which point they've had to shut down, or what would you call pause now? Pause or stop the blockchain. That's not possible in a proper proof of stake consensus because nobody has singular authority. You don't even know all the people. You just know you know that this machine exists, but you don't know who owns that node. So you don't have a control on shutting it down. So because of the centralized nature, they've been attacked severally. However, why am I bringing Solana up? The reason I'm bringing Solana up is you need to understand that they have a unique position because of all projects in 2020, Solana was one of the ones that raised most funds from venture capital. If you understand how venture capitals operate, if venture capital give you money and they invest it, they will make sure that that money does not go to waste. If it means going to the market to raise another set of funds to provide exit liquidity for the original one, I tell you, venture capitalists will do that. So because these guys have raised a lot of VC funds, I'm convinced, like I said a few months ago, I'm convinced that not only will they still be around by the next bull run, it will probably be a very profitable investment in the next 3 years. I don't think 37 is the lowest price it's going to get to. My estimation, where's Solana charts? My estimation is that we can see my estimation is that we can see as low as 20. 20 was the listing price for most of the perpetuals exchange when it was on futures. But I think we're going back to 20 or below. My first Solana, I must have bought it for less than 5. Let's go back to the prices too. I think it started at 7 cents or something like that because I remember, 70 cents. So it opened at around 80 cents. In 2020 August when I started hearing about it, and then it was like between $1 and $2. So I think we're probably going to get to either 20 or 10 for Solana, which in my opinion would be a good range for me to buy. Well, personally, I would think it's a good range to buy. Well, I expect that we should see at the bottom of this bear market, Solana should be in the units. at which point it's a good opportunity to buy, because what it means is that when the market recovers, it will probably get to, yeah, at the minimum 500. So this is all-time high of, yeah, this is all-time high of 250 something. That was that last? Yeah, that was November. So at all-time high of 258, what it means is that by the next peak, the minimum Solana can be is 500. And I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just based on two simple things. One, what's the percentage from all-time high right now? Percentage from all-time high is what is that stuff? Usually have it somewhere. Yeah, all-time high, 85% from all-time high. So yes, 260. So all-time high was $260. It's 85% from all-time high. If it drops to 90% from all-time high, if you buy at that time, that's 10x. So I think that I mean, anybody, I mean, I'm not saying buy now. Now is not even a good time to buy because it's still going to drop. But whenever if it drops to the floor, when Bitcoin starts selling in the low 20s, it would be a good time to buy Solana, because I think they're still propping up the price, because it's not been going down. It's not been going down relative to the price of Bitcoin. So I think the guys are still propping up the price, or probably accumulating to support or shock the price. But when the market does capitulate, I think we're going to see Solana in the 20s. At which point I think it's a good buy. Even I mean 20 or 10, I think it's a good buy regardless. Because if you buy at 20 and it goes back to all-time high, that's 10x. If you if it doubles all-time high at the peak of the next bull run, that's 20x. So that's that about Solana. And in addition to that, they also now have ecosystems of products. So there are DeFi tokens, so things like the Graph, StepN, Serum, Radium. These are verified Solana specific ecosystem coins. Aleph, those are the ones I know. And those are okay. So I know Samuel. I don't know what this Samuel does. It looks like a meme coin. I used to have some. I sold them off. So yeah, Solend. These are Solana. These are Solana specific projects. So I think they'll be around in the long run, and that's why I was saying I was going to talk about it. When people were asking me, so what do you know? What altcoins do you recommend? Definitely Solana, not to buy now, but definitely want to keep an eye on, because it will definitely move. I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to move because just because it has too much associated products and ecosystem. So many of these coins belong in the Solana ecosystem, just like BNB. The same thing with BNB. BNB is even more in a more leveraged position because BNB has an exchange, or Binance has an exchange. So Binance is even, in terms of the strongest, to be honest, I think Binance actually might be stronger than in the final analysis. It might eventually be stronger than Ethereum in terms of growth, because Ethereum doesn't have an exchange. Ethereum is just, as they say, petroleum, digital petroleum. But Binance has the same DeFi platform or platform capabilities that Ethereum is providing through that Binance Smart Chain. Then you have the exchange. Then you have the token itself being used as utility on the exchange. Then you have stable coins, which is properly regulated. It's not like this USDT or UST stablecoin. So I think it's a no-brainer that Binance and Solana. In fact, I think Binance will be stronger than Solana, because Binance obviously has more use case. Solana might grow much more in terms of yield when we start comparing distance from all-time lows. But definitely it's important to keep an eye on Solana. That brings me to the end of today's discussion. If we do have any question, okay, somebody says, what do I think of Cronos? Oh, I've talked about Cronos many times here. The same thing applies to Kronos. So Kronos is following closely in the footstep of BNB. If you feel that you're too late on BNB, Kronos is your second chance. I've told this story many times about how I sold my CRO prematurely, thinking that I made a loss, and then he ended up catapulting to almost $1. So yeah, Kronos is doing the same thing. In fact, let me put it this way. Kronos is trying to do what BNB, Ethereum, and Solana are doing. That's what Kronos is trying to do. How far they'll go with that? Yeah. In fact, I remember doing a deep dive. Yeah, I remember doing a deep dive for Roycraft on I thought that thing must be on YouTube somewhere. I did a deep dive on Kronos ecosystem and some of the projects that they have. Some of those projects, I mean, nobody knows them now. You just find out later that they've done 100x in 2025, and everybody's wondering where they were. But yes, Kronos is another very powerful ecosystem, and they made a lot of money. In fact, they are in very good position to give Ethereum a run for them. I mean, not Ethereum, BNB a run for the money. And the reason being that they are more established in the United States than Binance. Binance has Binance US, which is like really small and not, not heavy on the ground. CRO has really, I mean, they bought, what's it called? The naming right for Staples Center in LA. They've been sponsoring everything. So if you go on F1, you see them along with FTX. They're everywhere. They made a lot of money. So I think that institutions are going to start buying into them more in the coming years. And that's the only advantage I think they have about BNB. BNB, on the other hand, is still spreading around all over. And there's still a lot of, how do I put it, ambiguity around CZ, and SEC came. Okay, I didn't carry that news, but SEC came around and said they're going to start investigating Binance and their operations in the US. I said that in 2019, that when SEC comes out and says that it's a posturing move and it's a reverse psychology move that makes you commit blunders if you actually are wrong or if you are doing something shady. It's a very known tactic in criminal psychology. When you say, "Oh, we are going to start investigating Mr. So and so." Now, even if Mr. So and so at that point in time has nothing incriminating on him, if he's doing something shady, he will start to make decisions with the consciousness of that impending investigation, and that's where usually they get caught. And that's like you see in the movies, and I mean, it happens a lot in the US when they're doing a manhunt or something like that. They just paste it everywhere so that they will create a situation where the person creates an unforced error, so to speak. So yeah, I think that's going to hang around Binance for a while. But speaking of Kronos, I think they'll do well. They'll do well as well. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm happy to let you go. But if you do have questions on Instagram, just type in your question. If you have a question on Zoom, you can unmute your mic and ask your question, or you can type it in the chats and I will answer them. So the only questions I have, just to recap, is whether we should sell BTC now, really go down, and whether what my thoughts are on Kronos. Like I said, if you're a swing trader, you can sell now and buy lower. But I'm not sure what the marginal return is and how much capital you have deployed. So it's a very contextual decision. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. See you again next week. And until then, don't worry too much about your portfolio, especially if you've rotated into Bitcoin. It's not a perishable asset, I can assure you, and it is digital real estate, so it's not going anywhere. Have a lovely weekend and take care. Bye.